Ladies and gentlemen, welcome once again to the Packernet Podcast. I am your host and resident panelist, as always, Ryan Schlip. Check us out online, packernet.com. Find me on Twitter, pack_data. Well, we got day 3, finally and sadly. I'm going to be going through this live. We got notes just kicking off for me here. Big shout out to everybody that joined up over at packersgames.com. I appreciate that. We'll probably table that up until I'll be working on it a little bit over on my end, but I won't be putting any questions up just because there's nothing going on. But try to get that rocking and rolling for training camp. If I think of any more tools or games or anything to add to it, I will do such a thing. But do me a favor, go ahead and get signed up so that when training camp rolls around, we can have a little fun. By the way, funny thing with working with AI and this stuff, and AI is getting incredibly good, which is why I'm able to do what I'm doing now. But sometimes as you're working through things, it'll just make executive decisions that I didn't ask it to do. So shout out to all the people that signed up who also got a bonus 1,000 coins when you sign up. So I was like, dude, did everybody just get premium? I went and checked and was like, no, I got zero people signed up. I go and look, everyone's got 2,000 coins. Like, oh, what did you do? So I think that's fixed now, but little bonus for the early adoptees. But all right, what do we got here? So far, looks like Nate Hobbs is back practicing, or at least going through warm-ups. Jayden Reed, Omar Brown, and Kamal Hadden are new to the rehab group today. It's crazy how many people get sent over there. Again, I know it's not a big deal. They're probably any little tweak or whatever, they're like, let's just, you go sit over here. It's not a big deal. But I mean, for every one we get back, we're losing 3, 4, 5. And it's a big list. I'm sure somebody will put the list up here, but let's see. Herman says Zane Anderson, Christian Watson, Aaron Banks, Kalen King, Rasheed Walker, Julian Hicks, Colin Oliver remain in the rehab group. Elton Jenkins remains not practicing. Don't see Quay, Micah Robinson, or John Williams again, so would assume they remain not practicing. So that's in addition to Jayden Reed, Omar Brown, and Kamal Hadden. So that's 14 people. That's a big group, 14 not practicing. Ryan Wood says Jayden Reed is present but not practicing today. And then we got, as mentioned yesterday, despite being listed as a cornerback, it looks like the Packers view UDFA DB Jonathan Baldwin as a safety. They did mention that yesterday. And to be clear, that is primarily what Jonathan Baldwin was. So last year he was primarily a slot guy, a slot/safety. But it looks like that was kind of a 2024 thing where they kind of transitioned him into that role. 2023, he was pretty exclusively a safety. 2022, he was also pretty exclusively a safety. He's also got just the prototypical safety. But I don't know what, there's no position in the world that is so incredibly specific about size. Not that there aren't people that deviate from it, but I swear they're all 6'1", 200 pounds. Within an inch and a pound, and 5 pounds. 6 foot to 6'2", 195 to 205 has got to be 95% of safeties. It's just every freaking one of them. Oh boy. Bo Melton just lined up in the backfield in Pony. He's the new Slash. Okay, well, whatever. I don't know what we're doing here. Bo Melton, wide receiver, running back, cornerback, special teams ace. He can do it all. Not sure if he can be a wide receiver even. In other words, I don't know if he can even just win that competition. But he's definitely good enough to win all the competitions at the same time. That's what we need. Starters today, we got Jordan, Jacobs, and Melton in the backfield. Dobbs and Wicks, Kraft at tight end, and then Morgan, Telfort, Monk, Ryan, and Tom. On the defensive side, we got Gary, Wyatt, Clark, LVN, Cooper, McDuffie, Nixon, Hobbs, Valentine, Williams, and X. So I don't think there's anything out of the ordinary. The only thing that stands out, obviously Melton in the backfield is ridiculous. And then Dobbs and Wicks as your 1 and 2. That hasn't been the case 100% of the time. We have seen Golden in there at least once. Obviously, Reed, when he's healthy, we've seen in there. And then Telfort being the guy at left guard instead of Jennings is the only other thing. I still don't fully understand. I mean, it might just be he's not ready. It's not good enough or whatever. But Melton getting 0 snaps with the ones at any position. He hasn't rotated in with Ryan. He hasn't taken snaps. I mean, there's no left tackles, and it's been Morgan every time. They haven't tried Belton once. They haven't tried him once at left guard. I know with the 2s and all that, fine, but I'm saying starting team with the 1s. It's only been a few practices, but I would have thought at some point, somewhere along the line, that would have been a thing. Got a fantastic pass breakup by Nate Hobbs covering Golden in the red zone 7-on-7. Golden looked like he had a step, but Hobbs skies to break it up. This is where you find out if you're a positive or negative Packers fan. If you're excited, hey, Nate Hobbs, great play, or if you're saying great, Golden is a bust, that's how you know. Kraft separates from good coverage from Simmons in the red zone 7-on-7s, and Love hits him in stride. Kraft took it in for the touchdown. For those wondering, Melton is lining up a lot at outside corner. Not just saying this, but he legitimately looks like he can hang so far. Definitely intrigued. Love to Kraft for another touchdown in red zone 7-on-7. This time McKinney in coverage, but that Kraft, the tight end, not the cheese stock. Good one. Love to Dobbs in the back of the end zone for a touchdown in 7-on-7. Love is dealing right now. Love to Golden in the back of the end zone for a touchdown. There it is. That one took a while to develop, but Golden eventually separated from Williams, and Love found him open. Nixon, nice pass breakup in tight coverage on Bo Melton. Elgersma with a rocket to Cornelius Johnson in the back of the end zone for his first 7-on-7 rep. That arm is legit. That's all we've ever heard about Elgersma, by the way, is that he's got a super strong arm. By the way, Cornelius Johnson, back in the news. Huber says Cornelius Johnson is having a hell of a camp. 2 touchdowns in red zone today after a few catches in 2 minutes yesterday. That's crazy. We got Donovan Jennings working at center today. I was just talking with somebody yesterday about that. We don't really have a lot of center options. There was a little bit of cross-training with Sean Ryan, but outside of our starter and Monk, there's not much going on. So it looks like Donovan Jennings is going to maybe be our next option behind them as a possible third center. Brandon McManus just made a 58-yarder to end practice 40 minutes early. Everyone have a great summer, says Matt Schneidman as a tear rolls down my face. Wes Hodgwood says Brandon McManus drilled a 58-yarder, allowing the Packers to skip their CAT period at the end of practice. So that's pretty funny. They put it on McManus to hit a 58-yarder so they can get out of there, and he made it. That's real pressure. Next practice, July 23rd. So there will be no 2-minute drills, so they all gathered up, gave a round of applause to Mark Murphy, which is also pretty cool. Obviously, his time is winding down here. The, what is it here? Go to next month. The Packers shareholder meeting is the 25th. I believe that's the official handing over of the torch. So, month and a half from now, you got not only the first training camp practice, but we've got a new president of the Green Bay Packers. To be fair, I'm guessing we do right now. I'm thinking Mark Murphy has pretty much stepped aside and is allowing policy to kind of run things. He probably has been taking a pretty strong hand even over this past year, would be my guess, as sort of a transitioning into the role, and he has slowly transitioned out. So he's probably doing a lot of golf, and I think his job is officially done now that there's not much going on. So job well done, Mark. Matt LaFleur is having Mark Murphy address the huddle at the end of practice. Yeah, Mark Murphy officially retires July 25th after 17 years as Packers president. Murphy breaks down the team with 1-2-3 Super Bowl. So with practice being wrapped up, why don't we go ahead and take a break right there, and we'll be right back. Matt LaFleur going to the podium. Message to the team on the way out. Minicamp is over, but you can't take your foot off the gas. Pretty standard. Here's a little bit from second year running back, not second round running back, Marshawn Lloyd.
Where are you physically right now?
You said where am I physically?
Yeah, right now.
I'm doing good, really good. Running, can run as fast as I can jump as high as I want, can catch the ball. I'm doing pretty good.
How long have you been kind of 100%? Obviously,
100%. It's been some time now. I've been doing things before I was doing team. I was doing things on the side, just just taking things slower. But it's been good being able to be back fully in the practice.
Matt LaFleur on Mark Murphy says, I think I can speak for everyone within our football space just how appreciative we are of Mark and the kind of leader he is. I love the way he leads. He's going to let you do your job, but he's also very supportive. He's very special to all of us. Hopefully not, he says, of Quay Walker, Rasheed Walker, Jaden Reed, and Aaron Banks missing the start of training camp. Hopefully not to what? That didn't really answer the question. Long term? I don't know. Quay Walker didn't practice at all. The other three missed the last day or three. Packers head coach Matt LaFleur says quarterbacks, rookies, and injured players will return to Green Bay before the July 22nd report date for training camp. Quote, we'll have about half the team back here a little bit early. Oh, the question was whether or not those players could miss the first day of training camp, and he said hopefully not. Packers head coach Matt LaFleur on whether Christian Watson's progress back from his ACL tear suggests he might return earlier than initially expected. Probably not, to be honest. Thank you, Matt. Thank you. Not that it's the answer I wanted, but it's the right answer. I think most of us knew it was the right answer, and I'm tired of us playing this game every single time somebody gets hurt. This time of year, we circle around, we see them running up and down the field, doing jumping jacks and all this crazy stuff, and it's like, doesn't seem like a guy with a bad knee to me. And then we say, boy, he looks ahead of schedule. He could be back any minute now. Certainly early. This is just what people look like. They look like guys that don't have knee injuries at this stage, which is still several months away from being able to play NFL football. On Jordan Love, he said, I think Jordan's been more vocal, and we need him to be, honestly. He's got to take that upon himself. I just don't know many quarterbacks in this league that aren't the voice and not only the offense, but their team. All the great ones do it. I have noted, I mean, you could take that as a positive, which it is, that he's being more vocal, but it seems like this has been a thing every year he's been here. He's more vocal than he was. He's more vocal than he was. This is what, year 6? Was he mute as a rookie? How do you get more vocal every year for 6 years and he still hasn't quite gotten to the point where he's vocal enough? Just been hearing this every year. Matt LaFleur on Elton Jenkins, who wants his contract addressed by the team, quote, since he's been back here, the communication's been great between him and I. I expect him to be ready to go when we come back. He's a guy I really respect how he works. And I would say I would be willing to bet. And I'll tell you what, we can throw this question up on PackersGames.com. Will the contract be done before the start of training camp? My vote's going to be yes on that. On Devontae Wyatt, quote, I think he's had some moments where he's been outstanding, and I think we can build on that. Another guy that I expect to go out there and play his best ball going into year 4. On Marshawn Lloyd, he said he's different in a lot of ways than some of the other guys. He definitely has some great explosion, could be a real valuable weapon out of the backfield, I think. We saw that when he was healthy. He's a guy that's got a lot to prove. That's got to prove it. Okay, there you go. You can tell when they kind of just brush these things off that there's not a ton of excitement. He's just a guy that has not proved that he's the guy yet. That's including Devontae Wyatt. Now, he's being thrust into that starter role, but there's not been that turning of the corner to where they speak about him as a guy that is a veteran, that knows what to do. He shows up hard. He puts in the work. He does all the things the right way. He's just, they don't talk about him that way. It's kind of a, he's doing some stuff. We got to grow. We got to do this. We got to do that, which is fine when you're a rookie. It might be okay in year 2, but you're getting to the point with Wyatt also where, and again, I love Wyatt. I would at least like to hear the coaches start talking about you in different terms than, they only talk about this with young players, bad players, and late round players, which I guess is the same category as bad players. But this whole we're working on it. We'll see how it goes. He does some good things, and there's some things we got to work on. He just feels to me like a guy that the team and the coaches have never really just been gushing over. And if he was a later round guy, I'd be curious if he's going to make the team. Obviously, he's more talented than that. The standard is probably higher for him when they talk about him and as far as what they expect of him. So that, changes the dynamic a little bit. But it just would be nice to hear a different tone when coaches talk about Wyatt, because I don't think I've ever heard anything other than that exact answer that was given. 3 minicamp practices, 3 walk-off plays, says Andy Herman. Tuesday, Mecole Hardman catches a mini Hail Mary from Sean Clifford for the game-tying touchdown as practice ended. Wednesday, Mecole Hardman 74-yard from Love for the win. Thursday, McManus 58 yards ends practice early. That's a good call. Isaiah Simmons speaks with Green Bay media for the first time. He discusses why Jeff Hafley's a good fit for him. Simmons says his time with the Giants lit a fire under him, in part because of his lack of snaps. Former number 8 overall pick, eager for a fresh start. Here is a little bit from him.
And I just feel like Habs defense just fits me better just with how my skill type was, how I came, like more so like how I kind of played in college. He was in college recently, so that could be a part of it. But I just like his vision, his creativity. I feel like I need to be with a guy who's creative. So kudos to him for that.
Love everything about that. As much of a pessimist as I am, because we see this all the time. The early first-round picks, or any first round, whatever, relatively early picks, that they get moved, especially if they come to Green Bay. We remember the name. We don't remember what they've done in the NFL because nobody's talked about them because they've been terrible. And so we all go, ooh, remember when he was really good? And we all get really excited because they're elite and they have all the crazy elite stuff. The problem is I've seen this thing play out 1,000 times, and I can't think of a single time when it's gone any other kind of way than just not going very well. That doesn't mean that it can't go well. I'm sure it has happened in the past that it's gone well. It's just much more rare. But what I love about this, number one, the way he talks about Hafley. The fact that we have defensive players choosing to come to Green Bay because when they talk with Hafley and they listen to the way that he plays football and all this kind of stuff, they're like, that's what I like. I really respect this guy. I like this guy. I want to be with a creative defensive coordinator, and my mind went, boom, Jeff Hafley. Secondly, just kind of the explanation of, again, we know Simmons isn't working. The question is there a scenario where it can work? And in other words, all I need is an excuse. It's the same with Jordan Love. It was bad, but he was hurt. Well, I don't know if that's good enough, but I'll take the excuse and we'll see how it goes. Same with Kenny, right? He's not been great the last several years. This past year was appalling. Well, he got hurt week 1. Well, okay then. All right, fine. We'll run with that. With Simmons, the thing was always his athleticism and everything else. It's just a question of what do you do with it. And it's possible, let's just say possible, that he's worked with teams that took him in and said, okay, you're a linebacker now. When his appeal was this range of athleticism that can be used creatively. And they're like, well, yeah, just use that creatively as just a linebacker. And yeah, it could have been that he just ended up being a great linebacker, but that didn't end up happening. So now we got to think outside the box. You are not just a linebacker. You're not very good at that. It's not working for whatever reason. Can Hafley understand that and find ways to deploy him? Obviously, in part as, with linebacker roles, but even with like Quay, you might have to limit it a little bit and just say you're not a pure linebacker in that you only play linebacker, but also you have to know everything about being a linebacker and execute it perfectly in order to be a good linebacker. No, we're going to minimize your role as a linebacker so that we just try to overlap the parts that you do really well. And then to make you still a full-time player, we're going to expand out in some other areas. Possibly look at some safety, some pass rush, or just different ways of utilizing you from the linebacker position as a cover guy, a pass rusher, a run defender. I'm going to remain skeptical on Isaiah Simmons for obvious reasons. But I love that at least they're giving me a great quote on my defensive coordinator and enough of an excuse and a reason to believe that something positive could come of this. Couple that with the fact that he's locked down that number 1 spot, or the starter spot in the absence of Quay, at least up to this point. All right, you know what? I'll buy it. Let's roll with it. But it looks like that's it. It's a little shorter than I guess I was expecting and hoping. Day 3 usually is that way, but at least we get a little something. But I'll tell you what, let's take a break. We'll come back and we'll take a few calls, all right? We'll be right back. So kind of weird. I don't know if we have any new callers, so we'll just have to save that for another time because my entire Google database library or whatever got wiped out. I'm guessing this has to do with the whole internet-wide outages everywhere. A bunch of stuff is down. I don't know. But I just see a bunch of phone numbers, so I don't know who these people are. But let's find out what the heck they want.
Hey, Ryan, Beer Chief Benny here.
Yo.
Calling in to talk about Jair being released. Look, I'll be honest, man. I'm not really mad that they released him. I understand it. Because, they don't want to pay a guy who, quite frankly, they don't think is going to stay on the field that much money. And, now they have $46 million in cap space. I mean, honestly, it's kind of a win for the Packers. Now, where I get mad is they didn't really do anything to plan around the fact that this probably was going to happen. I mean, they had to have had some kind of inkling that he wasn't coming back. And I know they signed Hobbs, but I don't know. The thing is
the thing that's always going to annoy me about this, and it doesn't matter what topic we're talking about, the whole do something thing. We have to do something. We must do something. That's not... Tell me what. Because we've been over this so many times in so many different ways. There's only so many things you can do. What would you have liked them to do? There are no good free agents. There was maybe only one good corner free agent in the entire free agency class. There were a handful of maybe good corners in the class, and almost all of them, especially at the beginning of the draft, were either old and or had mild to major injury concerns. On top of just sometimes the board just doesn't fall the way you want it to. I'm sure there are corners they would have been willing to take had the board fell differently. I don't want them to just abandon, and that's the other thing. If they had drafted corners, they would have neglected something else. And we'd be sitting here saying, look at the wide receivers. We didn't do anything. Why didn't they do anything? I know they brought in Mecole Hardman, but outside of that, they didn't do anything. There's only so much stuff you can do. And even now, all the names that everybody wants us to go out and get, first of all, you can't just go out and get people. Most of the people are somebody that you'd have to trade for. In order to trade for somebody, first of all, you have to compete with all the other people that want to trade for them. Second of all, the team has to be willing to trade. The player has to be willing to be traded, and they have to want to come to your team. There's a whole ton of barriers here. The idea that any of these are easy options, yet they sit there uncompleted, is strange. There's a free agent that would be great to go get right now. Why aren't they on a football team? There's a player out there who's unhappy that wants to play. Why won't you just go get them? Why doesn't anybody else go get them? Nobody wants to ask that question. Why didn't anybody else do it? What's the holdup? Well, I don't know. Exactly. So maybe there would have been a different course of action. I don't know. We all could have, would have, should have made different decisions, of course. But let's first start with what are the actual options? And what is the gap between what they did and what I personally think is the absolute best possible option? And remember, you say, well, they could have drafted wide receivers. You have to then go back and say, okay, who do we get rid of? And then can I come back around and complain that we no longer have a wide receiver? Or if we get rid of Belton, you didn't address the offensive line. We all said you have to address the offensive line. You have to get better on the offensive. Everybody else got better on the offensive line except the Packers. It's always going to be this every single time because there's always going to be more problems than there's going to be opportunities to fix those problems. So every year we have to go through this. I thought they were going to do this and they didn't do anything. I thought they were going to do this and they didn't do anything. They never do anything. They didn't do anything. So again, you guys can call in about whatever topic you want. But we constantly keep calling in with this kind of language, and I'm going to constantly keep giving the same lecture over and over again. So it would be better, just a suggestion, call in and say things like, I'm not mad about losing Jair. However, I am a little concerned about the corner situation, and I know things are kind of tough. However, if it was me in that spot in the second round, I would have taken this person. Or I hope that, and this is the other thing, don't say the Packers aren't. Say things like, I hope the Packers are at least investigating these people, and if they would be willing to pay, or if we could get a trade done for this player for like a fifth-round pick, because I know they're kind of old and they're at the back end of their career, but if we could give up like a fifth, I'd be willing to do that. That's a more, you know what I mean? It's a more robust conversation we could have, as opposed to just, I don't know, I'm looking at it and I wish it was different and it's not different, so I'm kind of annoyed and I feel like you failed in some way. I can't prove that. Haven't even started thinking about it, honestly, but I just feel like you're a failure because I'm unhappy with it. Do you get what I'm saying? I'm not trying to come down hard on you. I'm just kind of using you as an example because it's not just you. It's everybody approaches things this way. And all the negative fans are constantly, and you're not a negative fan, Beer Cheese Benny, but the negative fans are doing this all the time, all over. You did nothing. Why did you do nothing? How could you do nothing? That's a stupid question. It is a boring question. It is not even a real serious question. In fact, it's something that if you are interested, you should investigate. Why don't you think it out? Again, not talking about I'm yelling at the other people now, Beer Cheese. They never want to ask themselves that question. Can you think of a single scenario that would possibly impede you from having an all-pro player to replace Jair? You say, well, I'm not asking for an all-pro. Well, you kind of are because we got Hobbs and you pretend we did nothing. So if Hobbs isn't even worth mentioning, again, Beer Cheese, you did because I'm not talking about you. If he's not even mentioned in your critique of this thing where we say that nothing was done, then it sounds to me like you're asking for a player that is at least pretty close to an all-pro to replace Jair. And the thing is, like, I feel like I always start off saying, like, here's what I would have done. And then this is why I get called a Gootlicker all the time and just circling back and defending Gutekunst, because I just don't like the critiques. They're not good critiques. Make a better argument, and then we can have a discussion about it. I don't know how this is going to pan out, but I personally would have handled this differently. Let's put it on record. I would have gotten Trey Amos in the second round instead of Belton. I don't even know if that was a possibility, but let's assume it was. I would have gotten Amos, who I really liked, and you could verify that throughout the entire draft process instead of Belton. I don't think Belton's a great player. I think we overdrafted him. Probably could have been available in the third, and even if he wasn't, it would have been a better investment. And now that we didn't, I would be pretty aggressive in going after these people. And maybe they are, and maybe the asking price is too high. But if there's any reports that come out that you could have gotten this player for a fifth or less, then I would have handled that differently, and I'd be pretty upset with the way that they handled this. That's an opinion, and I'll get behind that opinion. Not saying I agree, I don't know, but it's certainly a fair thought. This is where if you want the Gootlicker part to turn off, just approach things in that way. I'm not going to come hard at you. How dare you assault the great Gutekunst? Everything he does is perfect, and you shall not say such things. No, I think that's perfectly fair. I think there's a real good chance that Amos ends up, we're going to look back at this at the end of 2-3 years and go, yeah, it was a better option. And, you know, when you look at the depth issues, one injury could certainly derail or come close to derailing, or, you know what I mean? Like, these types of observations could certainly make me look and go, yeah, I could see that. But you can't just come in and say, well, you didn't do enough. Okay, fine. Because the whole game with the negative fans, again, I'm sorry I'm hijacking you here, Beer Cheese, the whole game is anytime the team isn't perfect, I point out the imperfections and then say that proves my point again, that Gutekunst is a terrible GM. And nobody seems to want to call you out on the fact that your game is stupid and no team is perfect and never will be. And if your standard is perfection, which it is, you pretend it's not, but it is, because if we had corners, there would be we have no pass rush. You're telling me the negative fans, they're already screaming about pass rush. They'd just be a lot louder about it. The only reason they're talking about this because it's the biggest order of the day. But guess what happens if we go out and get some big-name corner that they like? Do all the Goot haters come out and to pretend that they're happy and, oh, never mind, actually, this was a great move? No, they're going to say, now address pass rush. If you actually want to win, you can't win without pass rush. There is no satisfying this nonsense. All right, I'm sorry. This has been building because we've been going through the camp notes and I've been watching all the negative stuff with the Jair and I've been like suppressing it because it's like, nope, we're not doing that today. We're going over camp notes. And you said a thing, and I kind of took your head off, and I apologize, but it just was a launching pad to go throw a couple of frickin', you know, little couple haymakers out there at the negative fans who I do enjoy. I certainly do.
The corner room wasn't that bad last year without him, you know. So all these people are like, oh, no, we suck. Now we're going to be terrible. Jair wasn't even on the field, and we were okay. Like, we were fine.
That's correct.
Now with Hobbs, it might be a little different, man. And like, but what I don't get is
it doesn't mean it has to happen again. But I had Mr. Negative reach out again, and it was the same very short conversation. It was trying to think what the heck. Let me look it up real quick. I've learned the best way to handle some of these is just be a complete smart aleck, because that's kind of all they are. They're just smarmy all the time with this, like, sarcastic, yeah, kind of attitude. Nixon and a bunch of 7th rounds and UDFAs make up our secondary. Great roster building, Goody. And I said, so you mean same group last year plus Hobbs? He's like, you drink the Goody juice all day long. I said, well, is it the same group? And what did he say? Pivots immediately to pass rush. Typical Green Bay defense, 0 pass rush up front. And I said, well, it's top 10 defense last year with no pass rush, no corners. I don't know how that happened. He said, must be magic. I said, well, good. Then who needs corners when you have magic? Got a laugh out of that. Got a laugh out of him for that one. Just went to go check this conversation. Immediately, I have a message from him about how Hobbs was always hurt in Las Vegas. And, oh, look, he was hurt again yesterday. I said, yeah, he's back today, though, right? It's just this nonstop.
Not drafting like a corner in the early rounds, like, I mean, say what you want about, if they were good or not. I mean, it would have been better than doing what we have now. You know what I mean? And, maybe Michael Robinson or Kalen King, maybe they have huge potential we just don't know about, man. Maybe the Packers believe in them more than we think. But, yeah, I don't know. People are getting all pissed off. You know what, dude? Like, it's just what was best for the Packers. I mean, there's no sense in holding on. And, I mean, look at it.
Well, I honestly thought Gutekunst said it best when he's... Of course I do, right? I thought Gutekunst said it best when he said, when they were asking, something to the effect of, like, wouldn't it have been worth the gamble or whatever? And he more or less said, look, we've taken that risk the last several years and it hasn't worked out for us. I'm not going to pretend that this is like a new thing. This is year one and we got to decide if we're going to take a gamble. We took a gamble and we lost. And then we took a gamble and we lost. And then we're looking at taking another gamble. We don't want to take another gamble. We've been bit too many times and we're not going to do that again.
Like, you can't trade him. They tried to.
Right.
But nobody wants...
Well, that was another critique I saw. Is like, oh, you can't tell me he wasn't even tradable. That right there is terrible. I mean, that to me might be the dumbest of all the arguments. If you want to say that he did nothing, and of course there's something that could have been done. So, I mean, at least there's some assumptions we could make there that whether or not they're good and, how it's a stupid argument, but it's something. Saying, I know we could have traded him and you didn't, and that's the real crime here, is crazy to me. Because the only thing I can take away from that is Gutekunst was offered draft compensation for Jair and said, nah, I'll just cut him for nothing instead. What the hell are you talking about? How could that be the basis of like, I've got this idea and I'm going to put it out there publicly on the internet. And just from the second it leaves my mouth, it is like self-contradicting and stupid. Just because you can't imagine that nobody would trade for him? Literally, the internet is telling you right now that teams wanted to trade for him but refused based on his contract. Brian Gutekunst said, we're not going to let him leave for nothing, and then he had to eat his words and let him leave for nothing. Why? Why would he do that? You're telling me there's another option outside of he had no other options. And that option is he just didn't feel like it. Is that it? Because I'm running out of options here outside of just, I wasn't feeling it. They offered me a 7th rounder for him. They offered me a 6th or something. Which, that's the other thing that's so silly. Like, what is it? What is it you think that they offered that Gutekunst said no to? You think it was what, a 2027 7th round pick? And this is the great criminal act. So you're ridiculous on two different fronts. The idea that that's some kind of a horrific crime, and also that Gutekunst just saw draft capital and thought, nah, screw it. I'm just going to throw it in the garbage. Which, by the way, would have been leverage to get Jair to change his contract. Why? Because I'm going to send you to whatever team I want. So I'm either going to send you over there, which maybe he's cool with it, or we can work out this contract thing. It's just crazy to me that this thing went down. I mean, as soon as he got cut, you realize, holy crap, man, they really couldn't get a deal done. And then all the media sources come out and say, yeah, a lot of teams tried. They couldn't get a deal done because they wouldn't take on his contract. And it's like, yep, that's kind of what it seemed like. And then some people come out and they're like, he could have traded him if you wanted to. Why would this be the hill that you die on? It's crazy I don't know. I'll just leave it alone.
Jair, for they didn't want to take on that contract because they were thinking the same thing. Well, he's not going to play. He's always hurt. And then you saw also what people forget is he dropped production after that shoulder injury. And he just became an unwilling tackler, too. He just wasn't the same anymore. So, you know, Packers tend to have, you know how it is, like they'll keep a guy for too long or whatever, or make terrible extensions, which they did with Jair. But better to get rid of him now than keep him and pay too much money for him to not even play. So I don't know. That's just where I'm at with it. Your best ability is availability. That's just my opinion, man. Like, and yeah, I know injuries are part of the game. Like, I get that, but it's become it had become a trend with him. So, I mean, I don't know what else you want to say. So, everybody just freaking relax, man. We'll be all right. Honestly, I think if our D-line plays better, we're not going to be worried about the secondary. So, all right.
Well, yeah, and to your point, it just... There seems to be this idea that the offseason is... The offseason is different for different fan bases. The offseason for the Bears is when they're going to the Super Bowl, everything's great. It seems for Packer fans, the offseason is when it dictates everything. If you do nothing in the offseason, you're going to win 2 games this year. I don't know how that rationale works because that's not what happened last year. I'm sure we lost a couple players, probably not super significant. Maybe once in a while it's a significant player. But if you don't do anything, you're the worst team in football. It's almost like you're rebuilding an entire team in the offseason and you just didn't pick any players and now you're screwed. If you don't do anything, your team is over. It's dead. It's gone. You don't start from last year and say, this is what we were last year and let's see what happens. Maybe the team, even if you do nothing, continues to grow and get better or whatever. No. That's not how it works. You're completely rebuilding an entire team from this offseason. So you are either going to 100% win a Super Bowl if you do what all the negative, crazy fans want. Then you will win a Super Bowl because you can just snap your fingers. I don't know if they're just all Madden players or what. All you got to do is go out and like get this guy and get this guy and get this guy and then draft these 7 guys in this exact order, based on positional need, and you will win a Super Bowl. But if you do nothing, you win 0 games. You understand that it's got to be 95, depending on, your situation. If you're drafting a quarterback, it might be different. But in the situation we're in, at least 95% of the success or failure of this team was already determined before the offseason started, based on the players that we already have. The little tidbits here and there that we either do or don't add are rather minuscule. You want to go add some 31-year-old corner and you want to give up draft capital to go get him and put him on this team. Do you understand how shockingly insignificant that person is going to be just compared to the importance of Jordan Love? Not even comparing him to the entire DB group, the pass rushers, the defensive tackles, linebackers, the safeties, the coaching staff, the offensive line, the wide receivers, the tight ends, all that stuff, the depth at all the different positions. Do you understand how shockingly insignificant that 31-year-old washed-up corner is that you're throwing a freaking hissy fit over? Jeez. If you want to have a civil discussion about should we or shouldn't we, fine. And honestly, if you want to, fine. And if you don't, fine. You're acting crazy when you're getting all worked up about this stuff. And I'm about ready to go on a deep dive looking for some serious receipts because it's just getting to the point of being about that annoying to me. Maybe we'll start with all the negative fans who thought that the Packers got fleeced when they traded Rodgers. That should be enough by itself to make every single one of those people shut up forever. Because nobody has ever been more wrong in the history of the world than Jets fans, Rodgers loyalists, and just all-around negative Packer fans who said that Gutekunst got fleeced in that trade. Every single one of those people should shut up forever. Because never in the history of football has anybody ever been more wrong about a thing in the history of the world. Anyways, I was going to do a bunch of calls, but I got that off my chest. I'm feeling good. Appreciate the call, Beard Cheese. I'm going to get out of here. You all have a good rest of your day. I'll talk to you later. Have a good one. Bye-bye.